I'm here at the Blue Elephant Theatre in Camberwell with Ricky Jukes, the director of Hatpin, the musical, which opens here tomorrow night, October the 30th, and runs throughout November. Ricky, welcome to this Musical Talk mini episode.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's start with the obvious. What is Hatpin all about?
So it's a new piece of musical theatre. It's come from Australia, where it premiered a few years ago. It basically is a story that follows a young girl called Amber. It's set in 1892 in Australia, and it's about this young girl Amber who she feels forced to give her son away to a family who actually, as a profession, adopt other people's children. The mothers have to then pay them a weekly or fortnightly fee for the care of the child. As time goes on, Amber is refused. She's refused time to see her son. She's refused access, and she sort of gets very suspicious about that.
Right.
And as the piece goes on, she discovers actually she's not the only woman who's done this, and she's not the only woman who's been refused access. After a lot of digging, a lot of searching, we find out that the family have been taking in these children and not exactly doing what they promised to do with the children. That's all I'll say. There's a bit of a twist.
Leave it for seeing the show itself
absolutely,
to find out.
Yeah.
Excellent. And it's based on a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. Yeah, quite a big case in Australia at that time, actually about the Makin family. The Makins did exist. There's a little bit that's artistically changed, just a couple of names here and there, but yeah, this is the thing that made a huge change in legislation in Australia at the time for child protection. It means that we've got a lot for our actors to dig into. There's a lot of real facts, figures out there, that it just gives us this anchor, it gives us this place to go from. Obviously it's a musical, so there's theatrical representation, but it just comes from a place, when it comes from a truthful story, you feel a bit more obliged, you feel a bit more respectful, and it just means that you can always go back to the original text of the script, but also the original true story. It certainly helped us in rehearsal find what is it actually that's going on.
Brilliant. And how did you discover Hatpin, and why did you decide to put it on?
It's about 2.5 years ago. I went into Dress Circle, the world famous.
My favourite shop.
Absolutely. In Covent Garden. And at the time I was trying to buy a new musical or a new recording of something each month. Things that I'd never heard of or hadn't seen. I thought, I try and do that with plays as well.
Nice idea.
So I went in and instantly saw the CD cover, this dark, brooding, half-faced looking at you. And that's the original production image for the Sydney production. We've gone away from that for this production, but that image just grabbed me and I thought, right, this is going to be big, epic, Bouble and Schomburg, kind of loud, epic thing, and I thought, I'm going to love this. So I went home, and while doing work, just put it on in the background. And actually, I just found myself not doing any work at all. And about 2.5 hours later, I sort of sat there just a bit shocked by it all, really. And it's not like Bouble and Schomburg. It's very epic, but it's not crashing drums and all that sort of, Martin Guerre stuff. It's more Sondheim meets James and Robert Brown. It's sort of storytelling. There's massive emotional epic moments, but it actually pulls you back, and it has this great intimacy about it, which draws you in. And as I say, 2.5 hours later, I realised I hadn't done any work at all. Sat there, just feeling that I'd been moved, or in a good way. Not it has emotional moments, and it's a very strange contradiction of people crying when they see a run through, or we get emotional in rehearsal. But it's not sad crying. It's powerful crying. I guess you've just got to come and see it and experience.
How I feel when I watch Downton Abbey.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Like the Downton, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then so I contacted the representatives of the production, and it's been a while trying to go back and forth, working out how can we do it. And here we are.
Brilliant. And it sounds quite a similar anecdote to when Cameron Mackintosh first heard Les Mis.
Yeah.
Sort of swept away and
absolutely
thought, I have to put this on. And
I think it comes from a place then you think, right, how do I get this on? I have to get this on. Why, where? There's often I pick, I'm normally a classical director, so I do a lot of Shakespeare and Jacobean and Greek tragedy stuff, and it's exactly the same thing. You pick up a play and you start reading it, and if it hooks you in that first 5 pages, that's it, you're in. And then you don't stop reading, you know where it's set, you know where you want to, what story you want to tell, you know. And that was exactly what happened with the Hatpin. And it's actually, it's refreshing, because it means it's not that hard work. I'm not saying it's been easy, but it just means that the piece does it for you, it tells you what to do.
And what can audiences expect stylistically in terms of your production? And I mean, you said the music's quite like Sondheim and JRB. I mean, is it quite a modern musical spin on a period story?
It's strange that, actually, because it has these very classical pieces, these moments, but through a contemporary view, which is, again, could be a bit of a contradiction, but it just all works.
Brilliant.
We do a lot of movements, there's a lot of physicality. We work as an ensemble, so the company work together all day, every day. We don't really do individual calls, so that actors are working, creating the architecture of the scene or the atmosphere of the scene. There are actual movement sections. We work quite a lot as a company to try and build what the piece looks like, what it feels like. It's all really about sort of trying to build the atmosphere of the piece. So stylistically, there's lots of movement sections. It's quite fragmentary and disjointed, and then pictures form and then pictures disappear. That's the sort of base on it, which the scenes then sit within and around those movement sections.
Great. And how many are there in the company? Is it a big cast?
Yes, well, there's 15 actors in it, so
Great.
perform-wise, and then there's quite a large creative team. I think there's about 10 people working on it, which is great, because you're bringing all those different experiences, different views, different impressions of the piece, and then it's just my simple task of trying to slot all that together and hope for the best, basically.
That's quite a coup for a fringe musical. Often got shows with, 4 people, all of whom are actor musicians, so it's quite nice to have such a big cast in a venue like.
And particularly our work when we do, Shakespeare, for example, we've got 17 in Midsummer Night's Dream, which is directly after the Hatpin. The physical, the things you can create with actors' bodies on that scale, that epic storytelling, and the true sense of ensemble, going back to what ensemble really means, a group of people, a company. It doesn't mean just a big cast that stand there doing nothing. It means they're there telling the story all together. And I think it's really powerful. And luckily, we're in a position that we were able to create that with a company of strong, all leading actors who are all ensemble actors. They're all in it together. It just means that it makes a powerful piece of theatre, I think. You
said before that this production has changed slightly since the Sydney production. Have you made those changes in consultation with the book writer and the composer and lyricist, or are they changes that they've made before you took on this production?
A little bit of a combination of both.
Right.
They did a production in Sydney, then a production in Melbourne, and over that period, the writers have been altering. Lots of lyrics have changed, new songs added, new songs taken away. So the script that I got on the first meeting was vastly different from the CD, text-wise, and so then we had to decipher what is it that actually the piece still has from the CD. And to my relief, everything I wanted was still there, which was great. And then over rehearsals, the lyricist James has allowed us to edit some text, take some out. Some of the Australian jokes are not particularly relevant to us, so we've played with those and pulled bits around. Not much of the music's changed, actually. For us, it was about how do we simplify it. What's the key to the story? What's the purest moment? Go with that, and then that takes us through. So it's written for an orchestra of 7 or 8, and we've taken it down to a piano. So we're bringing it right back down to that chamber musical production. That it all comes from one place rather than actually loads of different places.
It's nice to have that luxury in putting on a show, to have the authority to make those changes. And
I imagine quite scary for Peter and James, the writers, sort of, there's a production going on in London, it's the UK production, he wants to change stuff, and they've both been incredibly supportive of that, and just said, well, look, it's your production, go for it. Obviously, let us know. That's just courtesy, but I think it's brave of them, I think, to see their piece reimagined.
And am I right in thinking Caroline O'Connor was in the original production?
Yeah, she's the one on the CD. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And she wasn't Amber. She was.
No, she was Harriet.
Right.
Amber's sort of best friend. She becomes sort of like a mother to her. In our productions, it's more of a big sister motherly role rather than a mother. say. But yeah, great Caroline Connor. Yeah, and we've often laughed and joked about her performance on the CD, and we've used what we want to use, and we've gone away from that a little bit. So I think our Harriet's now quite different, I think.
And you touched before the fact that this is part of a season that you have here at Blue Elephant. So what else can people see?
We already started our season, so we were doing Iphigenia in Aulis, the Euripides play over at the Broccoli Jack. That's just closed. Hatpin starts this week. In fact, tomorrow, first preview. And then following that is Midsummer Night's Dream, which we're setting in the 1950s in Italy, but high in the mountains. So our Midsummer Night's Dream is in the summer, but it snows. So it's sort of a dark, magical reinterpretation, almost based on Grimm's Tales, that sort of thing.
Quite appropriate in the run-up to Christmas as well, seasonally speaking.
Yeah, but dark. It's not all tinsel. It'll be there'll be a darkness to it, to the comedy, I think, which we start rehearsals for in a week or so.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much once again for joining me on this Musical
pleasure.
Talk mini. And do listeners check out the Hatpin, which runs throughout November at the Blue Elephant Theatre.
This Musical Talk mini was presented by Anna Shields and is copyright Musical Talk 2012. For more information, please visit www.blueelephanttheatre.co.uk/Hatpin.